Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. This evening to discuss a very pressing and contentious matter, the use or not of the Prevention of Terrorism Act, the PTA, against various individuals and so on, to control what some people say is dissent and what others say is an essentiality. Let's find out and let's get a sort of perfectly legal opinion on this. We've got here with us Senior President's Counsel, Mr. Srinath Perera. Very good evening to you, Mr. Perera. Welcome.
Good evening, Faraz.
Thank you. First of all, Mr. Perera, I wonder if you could explain to our viewers what is the legal definition of an emergency?
Well, can I put it this way? We have what is called the Public Securities Ordinance,
right,
which permits where there is a state of public emergency.
Right.
And if the President of the country is of the opinion that it is necessary to do so in the interest of public security,
yeah,
and the preservation of public order,
yeah,
or for the maintenance of supplies and services which are essential to the life of the community, the President is given the power under Section 2(1) of the Prevention of the Public Securities Ordinance to, by publishing Gazette notification, bring into operation Part 2 of the said Act, which entitles him, again by a Gazette notification, to bring into operation emergency regulations.
right,
And that's what I believe the present President has done. There are various purposes for which you can bring in these emergency regulations, which I would say, in the interest of the public security, if it appears to the President that in the interest of the public security and the preservation of public order, suppression of riots or civil commotions, for the maintenance of supplies and services which are essential to the life of the community, he can, by Gazette notification, bring into effect what we commonly refer to as the emergency regulations.
right.
Now, before you ask me, can I say this with permission, that from my point of view, I have no complaint whatsoever against or in relation to what the President did in bringing into operation the emergency regulations.
Right.
Had I been sworn in as the President, the very first thing, taking into consideration the environment that was there at the time, the very first thing that I would have done was to bring into effect Part 2 and by Gazette notification bring in emergency regulations.
Right.
That's fine. But having said that, so I have no quarrels about it. Others may agree with me or disagree, but I think that was a step in the correct direction.
A genuine need.
Absolutely, because there were people who were creating mayhem. Houses were being set on fire.
Yeah.
Never mind whose houses they are.
Yeah.
They were just sort of killing people on the roads.
Yeah.
They were walking into public offices as if though it was their own common property. And the international world was wondering whether it's safe to even come to Sri Lanka for a holiday. Even our own Sri Lankans were frightened to come back. So placed in that, and essential services were getting disrupted all over.
Right. So on that basis, the use of the mechanism to declare an emergency.
Absolutely, I have absolutely no quarrels on that.
Right.
But having said that,
Yes.
today when I look back, I find that those who are in power today are absolutely abusing those powers. Powers which were given for a particular purpose are being misused openly by those who are in power to suppress the rights of the people.
Specifically what, Mr. Perera?
Oh, right. You asked me specifically what?
Yeah.
Yes. One, we find that the Prevention of Terrorism Act is being made use of to arrest people who are taken into custody and their whereabouts are not known. It's a very serious situation.
Yeah.
Never mind who. These are citizens of this country. And I don't think there is any requirement whatsoever for anyone at this moment to make use of the provisions of the PTA. That's one. Secondly, under the guise of the emergency regulations, you know that between the 9th of July and the 14th of July, a large number of persons walked into public offices such as the President's House, Prime Minister's office, and some people, I think the majority of them, through curiosity, walked in there. There may have been disruptive elements, a few of them, but take it from me, I'm telling you today I'm telling you, right? The police officers are taking them one by one. 99% of the people who are being arrested, I believe, are innocent people who just walked in through curiosity, and they are filing B reports in quotes, stating that they will be charged for offences under the Antiquities Act and the Offences Against Public Property Act. Now, Antiquities Act, I can't understand how these people can be brought under the Antiquities Act, because in my view, pardon me for saying this, I don't think the police officers who submit those B reports have an understanding of what antiquities are under the law. An antiquity is an item which has been in existence from prior to March 1865.
Why
1815.
Why March 1815?
I believe that's the day or date on which foreigners took control of a part of this country. I believe that's the reason. 1815, not 1860, 1815. That's 267 years ago. Right? The law caters only to offences relating to such items or monuments. Right? But today they are, and don't forget, under the amendment that was brought to the Antiquities Act, there's no bail. There's a provision, section I believe 15C of the amended act, which was brought in. It says no bail, not bail from Court of Appeal. Now, offences under the Public Properties Act permits a person to at least go to the Court of Appeal or High Court and ask for bail. But this says no bail. Full stop. And if you read the act, you will find the offences are punishable for a jail term which is between 2 years and 5 years. So even if you get convicted, you can be sentenced to a maximum of 5 years, but you take them and remand them and just keep quiet. Maybe for 10 years he can be kept on remand.
Because he's been charged under the...
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I don't think this is the brainchild of the police. Now that you have given me this opportunity, I make an appeal to the Inspector General of Police to check and see whether these are genuine cases which come under the Antiquities Ordinance. I challenge the police. I don't think this is the brainchild of the police, but I am fairly sure that there is an unseen hand which is operating from behind the scenes. So, I'm sad to say this, which takes, I mean, tomorrow if they file a B report saying Mr. Srinath Perera was one amongst those who were there between the 9th of July and the 14th of July in the President's house, and he'll be charged under the Antiquities Ordinance, I'll be incarcerated. I mean, this is the worst thing that any ruler can ever do. I say that this is something in relation to which all of us will have to get together and resist.
So, Mr. Perera, hypothetical, using the presidential flag as a bed sheet, antiquity?
I can only laugh.
Well,
I don't think...
Using the presidential mug, antiquity?
Is it 267 years old? You mean to say the president had a mug which is 267 years old?
Having a dip in the presidential pool.
I can only laugh.
So none of these
I
things
can
are
laugh and cry.
Right, let me put, shall we bring a touch of seriousness to this?
Absolutely.
Now, tell me, Mr. Perera,
Not that I'm not being serious. I'm being very serious.
Yes, it's me. I try to add a bit of humor to this, but because, what more can we do apart from has a sense of humor, even if it is at our own expense? Now then, we have the situation where 70-something alleged arson attacks on some houses.
Absolutely.
Right? Private property. The police investigate and charge some of these people, but they're using the normal law.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now we have the sad situation which has caused international concern. We have a representative of the United Nations expressing grave concern and urging the president of our country to not sign the deal, which I believe he has now. But in this instance, these three people, the authorities have said, look, we want to hold them for 90 days. And the very thought that even before the questioning starts, and these three people who've been arrested, when they realize that they are being held for 90 days, surely their concern will go through the roof.
Absolutely.
So, are we then saying that these people are not, they shouldn't have been the subject of detention orders, the PTA?
Absolutely.
Or why can't we say, or why can't we think, the public, that the TID or the CID must be having some form of prima facie evidence to look into whether this is a serious matter warranting the use of the PTA? I
can say with certainty that as I see it, there is absolutely no necessity, because I don't think the type of situation that they are, if at all, envisaging has ever occurred as at today. To me, as I said, I repeat myself, to start with, the little bit of independence that the public officers, including police officers, had has been crushed totally with the passing of the 20th Amendment under the Gotabaya regime. So today, that the public servant, including the police officers, have become subservient slaves of the powers that may be. And I'm 100% sure that what is being done through the hands of police officers is not what they want to do, but what they are forced to do by some hidden hand,
dark forces,
which is operating behind the scenes.
Can I ask you
sad
this?
to say this.
Yes,
sad to say this. And sad to say this because some of those people who are up there call themselves absolute Democrats. We'll have to find new definition for the word Democrat.
But Mr. Perera, can I put it to you like this? The public, surely, I'm a member of the public, and if they say, the TID or the CID say, look, there is some evidence, and so that we need this 90 days, I take on board what you say, that there is, in your view, there is absolutely no real need, and that there is some dark force or forces in the background. Is this a bit like in the Yapalani government, when there was a committee based around temple trees, who, for want of a better word, cherry-picked the kind of files that would be sent to Ravi Vaidya Lanka at the FCID?
Well, I agree that what they did during the Yapalana system also is not acceptable. But certainly, if one compares what was done under the Yapalana by operating through another agency and what is being done today, I think there's no comparison. I think what they are doing today is much worse than what was done under the system, under the Hapalan system during the 2015-2019 era. That's my considered view.
On that note, let's go for a quick break and take a peek at this evening's headlines from the News First Primetime News team. We'll be back rejoining Mr. Srinath Perera, President's Council, where we're discussing the deployment of the PTA. Fair, unfair, and why is it causing even international concern? We'll see you on the other side of the break.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
A meeting between Ranil and Sajid. Activists including Vasanta Mudali get detained for 90 days under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Where is Mudali? Council's question. Fishermen and estate workers take to the streets. A maximum retail price for eggs. Grass cutter demands fuel to cut grass.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Mr. Srinath Perera, President's Council. So, Mr. Perera, you maintain that the PTA is a bit too much, out of proportion to the investigation that ought to be done.
Absolutely.
But these people, some protesters, they broke into the President's house. They broke into the Treasury Secretariat,
Absolutely.
the Prime Minister's office.
Right.
Surely that is anarchy.
Absolutely. That's why, Faraz, I said that I have absolutely no objection. I don't find fault with the President for having brought into operation the emergency regulations. And once the emergency regulations were brought in, I believe they were able to bring the situation under full control.
Right.
Now, having done that, having brought back some degree of discipline within the country, there was absolutely no necessity for a sane person, a person who would be reasonable, to have ever thought of making use of the PTA.
So what kind of impact then does the state of emergency have on the public? You know,
As I said,
does it impact on human rights?
as I said, it was a necessity.
Right.
There was my view. I fully agree, and I take the same view that it should have been brought into operation. My complaint is about the manner in which it is being implemented at present, and in the process.
Yes.
In the process, make no mistake, as far as I see it, there are numerous violations of human rights. The innocent people
In the use
are
of the
sorry,
in the use of the
emergency regulations.
Right.
Forget about the PTA.
Oh, okay.
Put it aside. As I told you, today B reports are being submitted to court, stating that these people are going to be charged under the Antiquities Ordinance. I can't understand under what. On what basis they say that? Obviously, it's not a creation. It's not the brainchild of a police officer. Obviously, there is an unseen hand operating from behind and dictating terms to police officers to make such.
why? For the suppression of dissent?
Absolutely. To put fear into the minds of people, to suppress their rights, so that they can thereafter take full control and do things the way they want. Sad. I never expected that from a government which is led by Ranil Wickremesinghe. I never expected that.
Member of the IDU, the International Democratic Union.
Absolutely. Sorry to say this.
Is this a result of being propelled into power by 134 members of a party that is ideologically different from him?
I'm not too sure whether they are ideologically different from him, but I'm not too sure. But certainly that may be one of the reasons. I don't know, but I'm
okay, forget the word ideology. Take that out of the question. Is this the cost that he has to pay, he being the president?
He's not a fool. He's a man with 50 years experience. He ought to have known that the moment he accepts that position, supported by the support to a group, right, who have destroyed this country, the economy of this country, he ought to have known that he will be, unless he willingly went there to achieve what he wanted, right, that he will be a prisoner in the hands of those people. If he did not understand
he went
that,
there with his eyes open.
Absolutely. He is not a dud. He is not a fool. He is not an idiot. He, knowing very well what the results would be, that he walked in. Because I think all what he wanted was to get into that position. Pardon me for saying this.
Yes.
Pardon me for... Ranil Wickremesinghe is a man whom I supported wholeheartedly prior to 2015, now between even up to say 2016, 2017.
Thank you very much for your questions, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to take this one. The police media spokesperson says they are trying to gather evidence, or they're looking into evidence whether there is or was a conspiracy to overthrow the government. A conspiracy is some hidden activity. But these activists were out in the open. So what is the definition for conspiracy in Sri Lanka's context?
This is like putting the cart before the horse. To arrest people, first you must have your material.
So this is the other way around.
Yeah, you're taking people into custody, and now it looks as if they are looking for items of evidence to justify what they have done.
Do we have a definition or interpretation for terrorism in the PTA?
Yes, it sets out certain types of acts which can amount to terrorism. But in general, I mean, to me, there may be criminal acts which are being committed by a particular small group, criminal acts. But each and every criminal act is not a terrorist act. It's a distinction. A may knife and kill a person. B, that's not terrorism. What's happening today? Today, the persons who have been taken into custody are innocent people who have not even committed a crime, except maybe
Trespass.
Because they had absolutely no right to walk into premises belonging to others. So to that extent, maybe, as you quite correctly said, under the general law they could be dealt with. But what are they trying to do? They are trying to abuse the provisions of the law in order to put fear into the minds of the people so that they can carry on the way they want. That's a dangerous situation.
I'm just getting a report to say that Piat Nikeshla, who forcibly entered the Prime Minister's office on the 14th of July, has been remanded till the 26th of August. Now, just if you don't want to discuss this one case, but now here...
That's not the only case, there are several cases.
Yes. So in this case, they are being dealt with under the normal law. Well,
is it so?
The penal code.
Is it so?
I don't know, because it doesn't say anything about the PTA.
But if they have been remanded, my guess is, as I said, there must be a B report which refers to the Antiquities Ordinance and the offences under the Public Property Act. If not, I don't think for having entered the premises, any reasonable judicial officer would remand that person. Of course, if there is an allegation that that offence, that they will be charged under the Antiquities Ordinance, then I suppose there is a difficulty that a judicial officer will face. But I don't think it's under the normal law that they have done. I mean, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I don't know the facts of...
No,
right? But certainly, I get the feeling that I'm sure, and if he has been remanded, right,
yes,
whoever, till the 26th, right, quite right, I'm 100% sure, this must be on a plane filed by the CDBD,
which is
Crimes Detection Bureau, whatever.
Okay. Now then, you know this unfortunate three. We call them the unfortunate three, shall we? Because they are obviously unfortunate. Why have the Inter-University Students' Federation activists been arrested under the PTA? What remedies do they have to challenge their detention?
I think I have expressed my view. I get the feeling that there is. I don't think it's the police officers who are doing this.
There's
It's their
some
hand.
hidden force.
It's their hand, but somebody else's brainchild. Somebody else's brainchild. So I wouldn't totally put the blame on police officers. They're helpless sometimes, probably.
Which is why we need these independent commissions in place.
Absolutely, and that is why the 20th Amendment has to be torn into pieces and thrown into the river, which...
No, the rivers aren't clean. They get stuck. So the best thing is we must incinerate them.
Absolutely, okay. Sorry for the wrong phrase that I used.
Yeah, the rivers, there is no cleaning process, which is why we have regular floods, by the way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But this is, what can the people do? Their frustration is growing.
We have to
by the minute.
We have to only look up to the gods above and nobody else.
So we are reduced to only that now?
I wouldn't say that, but of course there may be remedies, like maybe we might be able to, I don't know, to challenge some of these arrests by way of fundamental rights in the Supreme Court.
So thank God
or else, there's also another thing that I have in mind, that the police officers who submit such B reports without having justification, or I think civil action can be filed against them, claiming damages individually. Of course, if such civil action is to be filed, claiming damages against those police officers who knowingly or unknowingly submit to such pressure and without having material to justify, if they tender B reports to get cover for the purpose of keeping people on remand, I believe a civil action will be available. The only limitation is, if it's an action that you want to file against the police, it has to be done within 3 months. There's a limitation under the police ordinance.
But honestly, you know, don't you think, I know that you're a lawyer yourself, but don't you think that the sovereign people of Sri Lanka must do a collective puja, offer collective prayers in whichever religion that you want to, and say, thank God we've got a Supreme Court that we can finally go to?
Absolutely, I agree.
At least
that's the last hope that we have.
That is
now,
the last resort for this country.
Even in relation to these B reports that are being filed, I mean, we have the right to go before independent judges, a team of independent judges, who I'm sure will give ear to what we say and make reasonable orders. We have that confidence. So fortunately, we have a judicial system in operation where, at least to some extent, we might be able to get some form of relief. It's there. It's not a situation which is totally gone, but then in the process there's a lot of hardship that people have to go through. No?
And what about the hardship, very quickly, because this is the last minute, what about the hardship that these detention orders will have on our talks with IMF?
I presume that will have a direct effect, because if I understand it right, the Western world does not support violations of this nature. I don't know. So if that be the case, maybe that also
could impact negatively. Srinath Perera, President's Counsel, thank you very much for being on Newsline Live.
Can I thank you, Faraz, for having invited me, you and this organization, for the opportunity that you have given me to express my independent views.
Thank you very much. We much appreciate your time. It's now time for the primetime news, but before that, let me remind you that following tonight's news is Face the Nation, hosted by Shamir Rasuddin. The discussion, the debate is, in fact, what we've just been speaking about today too. The matter is so serious that we did feel that there ought to be a robust debate about the PTA and events surrounding that. That's on TV1 soon after the news. Thank you for watching, take care, and as always, God bless you all.